Hi there, my name's Tom, back talking about F1 fantasy as per usual, and we're going into the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend. Hope you've had a nice Friday, hope you're going to have a nice weekend. I will have a nice weekend, providing the F1 fantasy gods are on my side this week. So, what am I thinking going into this weekend? Hasn't changed too much, to be honest, since my team selection video a couple of days ago, but there's a little bit more food for thought. The Alpines are looking interesting, and it's toying with it a little bit. The possibility of bringing in Alpines. You could even go kind of crazy and put all the Alpines in. Like, if you want to go completely mad, we could. This is just me kind of playing devil's advocate. I'm probably not going to be doing this because it means cutting out Sergio Perez, but we could just go Alpine Fever. We get Esteban Ocon in there as well. We go with a team like this, and it's just like all in on the Alpines. I don't think I'm going to be doing this. However, we'll see what happens in FP3 because I really like this team. I'm not going to lie. It means avoiding the budget drivers entirely, which is fantastic. However, I do think the budget drivers should do okay this week because it shouldn't have too many DNFs. Like, everyone knows this track very well, including all the rookies, De Vries and Sargent, and that should be pretty happy going around Barcelona. So yeah, I don't think the budgets are the worst option this weekend. And as much as I love this team, it does mean getting rid of Checo Perez, and I think Perez is going to bounce back strong. We know the Red Bull is extremely, extremely strong. It's been so supreme all season so far, and there's nothing really going to change my mind about that. Looking at the times from FP1 and FP2, we see Max Verstappen P1 and P1, FP1 and P2. No surprises there. Look at the dominance in FP1 as well. Massive gap, around 7/10 of a second between him and second place, which is kind of insane. People were finding their feet on a slightly altered Barcelona track, but I do think that nevertheless the Red Bull is just going to be so strong, and I think going against the triple Red Bull on this weekend is probably foolish. However, I do kind of like that team with all the Alpines in because the Alpines look quite strong. Once again, we see Ocon here, P3, backing up the P3 in Monaco. Pierre Gasly in P5, and again, FP2, we see Ocon down in P5 and Gasly here in P10. So yeah, the Alpines definitely look strong. I think they're going to be a lot closer this weekend than what people might give them credit for, and it's definitely an option. And if I could get Ocon in my team, if we go back to the other team for a second. Go back to Aston Martin, bring back in Mr. Perez. And if we got rid of Stroll and if we could get Ocon in, if I could just afford a budget driver in this, I can't quite afford Sargent, who's the cheapest. I believe he's the cheapest. Yeah, the cheapest of the budget drivers at 3.5. So I'm 0.2 short. So there will be some people out there in the universe that have enough budget to get Logan Sargent in this team and have this team. And I do think Ocon, high on confidence from Monaco, and again backing up with a good couple of performances in FP1, FP2. The Alpine's looking pretty sweet. Honestly, if I had the budget, if I had the extra 0.2, I think I'd be going for it this weekend with this team with Ocon in there, the in-form Alpine driver. That said, Gasly's not a bad sort of backup, but yeah, I think Sargent, although he's not impressed so far this season, as I've already touched on, should be fairly comfortable going around Barcelona, as it's a track he's raced many times before, and therefore, and also if we look at the timings here. Look at the Williams, man. 19, 20, and 19 and 20. We know Sargent's going to qualify in that sort of vicinity, 19 or 20, and therefore he's just sort of waiting to gain positions for other people DNFing or whatever. Might get a couple of overtakes, and as a budget option, as long as he doesn't DNF, that's the most reasonable thing we can hope for. So yeah, if I had the budget, I think I'd be going with a team like this with Sargent in there, but I can't quite get there. Therefore, we have to make some allowances for that, and then the other option is basically between Gasly and Stroll for that slot. Looking around the other people in that price, it just doesn't quite excite me enough, and I think Stroll is still definitely a good option, but I don't. He's struggled in FP1, FP2. If we go back to the timings again, P15 and P18, he's really, really struggled. I'm not really sure what's gone on there. I haven't seen any interviews from Stroll post practice sessions, so maybe he can shed some light on why he's so bad. But yeah, I do, and we also see the trend of Lance Stroll always regressing from practice to qualifying as well. So if that trend continues and Lance Stroll is worse than his practice positions, we're literally going to see him yet again struggle to get out of Q1, even though he's in one of the fastest cars, and that's pretty embarrassing. Which will put him on 0 points from the Saturday, and he's completely reliant on positions gained and overtakes on the Sunday, and the very sort of slim, if he doesn't get out of Q1, it's unlikely he's going to get any points on the Sunday, despite the Aston Martin having good tire degradation, etc. I just don't see Stroll scoring that many points. So we'll see what happens in FP3, and if he's looking like he's not going to qualify in Q3, then it's probably just worth a switch to Gasly. To be honest, Gasly looks like he should be in the top 10 in Q3. He looks like he's going to be strong enough to sort of hold that position more or less on Sunday. So I think that there's probably a bit of a higher ceiling for Gasly, in which case we'll put him in there. That leaves me personally at 4.6 million. And then again, it's down to the budget bingo as to who you want this weekend. I can't quite get Guan Yu Zhou, who is probably preferable to most other drivers. Again, Albon looks like a good shout because of his, the fact that the Williams just doesn't look like it's going to qualify well at all. Again, I'm not sure exactly how much, what the pace is like or the degradation is like on their longer runs. So that's something to look out for if you want to look that up, see what's going on. And again, like I say, Sargent is still an option, although if I have the budget, I'm not going to go with Sargent. I think Sargent's fine if he's all you can afford for a certain, with the Ocon build, but I wouldn't probably go for him necessarily. I do think I am kind of still tempted to go Yuki Tsunoda, which is who I kind of alluded to on Wednesday. I do think Tsunoda's just been on really good form. And past that, I think Hulkenberg is also looking good. Hulkenberg in, was it P3? Was it? Yeah, P3 and FP2. Yeah, I feel like the hasn't been great on its tyre degradation so far this season, and I can definitely see Hulkenberg, putting in a great lap like he's done in FP2, qualifying well, maybe catches you 1 or 2 points for qualifying P8, P9, P10 in that vicinity. But then are the Hases gonna drop back a little bit in the race? I don't know. It's a tough call on Hulkenberg. I don't know. He's shown a tendency to drop back, so we might be seeing that again this weekend. It might not be. It might be able to hold his own. That straight line speed of the Has looks pretty impressive, so it might be difficult for people to overtake him. Who knows? But anyway, yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. Like I said, the Alpine build is something I'm interested in. I have toyed around with just like switching out the Alpine constructor. I mean, the trouble is it's because they're 3 million more than Aston Martin. It just makes it a bit more tricky to get them in, to be honest, and you basically end up with 2 budget drivers, which I really don't like, even though I do think the budget drivers should be kind of okay this weekend. But I think another thing against bringing in Alpine is that Fernando Alonso is on fantastic form in a really great car, and having having Aston Martin as your constructor effectively doubles up on Fernando Alonso without having to DRS boost him, and I think that could be worth it just to have the Alpines. But I'll play devil's advocate here for a second, and you can put a couple of budget drivers in. You can have Tsunoda, for example, and maybe Albon, something like that. If you wanted to change it up completely, if you've really gone off Stroll, he is not a man in form at the moment. Let's face it. I guess confidence is definitely a thing in racing. I'm sure all these drivers have bags of confidence, but there must come a time where you have a couple of races, you have a couple of DNFs in the first few races of the season. You must be a little bit low on confidence. And maybe just keeping away from Stroll entirely this weekend is the right option. And something like this, if you don't want to go Albon, for example, you could still go Stroll, or you could go Stroll, Albon, whatever floats your boat in regarding the budget picks. But yeah, if you want to avoid Stroll entirely, then this is a kind of a reasonable build as well. I'm still thinking that Stroll is probably an okay pick, but I'm also, I'm probably either going to go something like this if I want to be really drastic, or I'm going to go just switch out Stroll for Gasly and then pick a budget option to go alongside him, hold his hand, if I don't want to go too hard in with Alpine. Because although the Alpines look good, I don't want to just be jumping straight on them and getting all overexcited and they don't perform as well as we think. But I do think Alpines are certainly worth some consideration this weekend, particularly given their performance last weekend, even though it was a completely different track in Monaco. I think that the Alpines should be quite good this weekend, so I think we should give them some consideration. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. Uman and Arin over a couple of different builds, nothing too drastic. Like I say, I think the triple Red Bull is kind of a given of how strong they are. Fernando Alonso is a bit of a given. There's the other 3 slots which are kind of open to some dabbling if you like, but yeah, it's kind of a close one. I think Aston Martin probably still my preferred constructor. It avoids having the double budget, but again, I don't think the budget drivers are going to be too bad an option this weekend. Possibly, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it depends how different you want to be. Depends how risky you want to be, and yeah, it depends how much you want to have fun, because we want to have some fun in this game. But yeah, that's kind of it for me for now. We'll have a look at FP3 and see if it changes my decisions any further, and I will endeavour, if I am not completely bogged down with baby and other daughter, to post my team on YouTube community page if you want to see who I'm going to pick going into the deadline. So yeah, it kind of sums up my thoughts on this Friday evening. It's going to be a nice sunny weekend in the UK, so we'll hope the sun also stays out in Spain. Hope the rain doesn't come too hard and cause our drivers to DNF, but you never know. The rain might spice things up a bit, make it a bit more interesting for viewing. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on the weather, but again, not going to impact my decision making too much for actual driver selection. And as for Chips, again, even though Max Verstappen looks completely dominant, I don't think it's time to triple DRS boost him. I'm just going to keep that in my pocket for a nice dry sprint race, hopefully. So yeah, that's it for me. I'll see you again next week. Or even though there's no race next week, I am thinking of doing a video next week, which I'll tell you more about maybe next week. Okay, anyway, I'll catch you soon. Have a nice weekend, everyone, and bye for now.